Hello, I'm Dr. Wim Lavin, and this is Introduction to Conflict and Peace Studies, a class being taught online for Cuyahoga Community College. I have a number of videos, and you've probably seen that there's an introduction or two up there. Every year or so, I think about whether or not I need to update these. One, because I'm getting old, but also because I'm finding that there's newer and better ways to approach this online teaching. So we're going to start this class in a way that hopefully doesn't make anybody too uncomfortable, but you are going to do your assignments this week before you get the syllabus, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later. But I wanted to give an introduction and say something about how that's happening, as well as for this introductory class, you're going to watch one of the YouTube videos. What I've discovered in the last 3 semesters is that getting everybody into Zoom for the first class ends up being a bit challenging. So you'll need to download and install the Zoom application into whatever technology you're going to be using for this course. And I'll have the link posted, and then you'll go to it. The WebCT and the stuff through Campus doesn't have the functionality that works best for me. And so you will use Zoom, we will meet regularly, but this first week we won't have the online meeting that way. We will watch, you guys will watch, you'll see what I have to say, you'll get introduced to me, and then you will do a write-up. So this short introduction will tell you a little bit about the class, will make sure that you know you need the Zoom application, and we will use that for our future online meetings. We will meet at a regularly scheduled time, just not this first week. And I'll tell you a little bit about your peace narrative assignment. So, Introduction to Conflict and Peace Studies is pretty much what it sounds like. We're going to go over the basic concepts, definitions, themes, theories that can help us think about peace and conflict, according to what does the empirical data say. Not just what do we think about living in a peaceful world, but what are the things that we see about what's working to help manage peace, create peace, and those kind of opportunities for people to get along in neighborhoods, in families, with interstate conflicts and intrastate conflicts and so forth. Today is September 12th, so, that might be on people's minds because the anniversary of September 11th conjures up the images of terrorism that have kind of echoed throughout the last 2 decades. But there are other ways to think about September 11th, like Mahatma Gandhi's first Satyagraha, which is soul force or truth force, which was nonviolent struggle. His first campaign was also on September 11th. So we have ways to frame and think about being strategic in responding to problems, disputes, and, what does ultimately lead to constructive conflict as opposed to deconstructive conflict. The second part of it is the conflict part. Most of us go through life learning that conflict is a bad thing to be avoided, but conflict can also be an opportunity, and we can have a tremendous amount of control over outcomes in conflict when we're strategic about the ways and times and places that we want to engage in conflict. So, again, you'll have videos on a weekly basis. These will supplement the readings. I don't talk about the things that you read about 100% because that undervalues your time. The things that I talk about should supplement the readings supplement the things that I talk about. These are things that should work together. But the starting point for this class, your first assignment is a peace narrative. And for the peace narrative, I want you to really spend some time thinking about places, spaces, and time in your life when you have felt at peace and what that meant for you and how that worked. We all have a lot of conflict, and we'll spend a lot of time talking about conflict. But I want the starting point, and in many ways the ending point for this class, to be your experience with peace and how that has worked for you. So in a peace narrative, I'm really looking for, again, for you to identify from your experience, right? Lots of times people look at kind of a idol of peace, right? Like, when times were tough, I could always go to so-and-so, and they would make me feel comfortable and at ease. And if I was going through a bad time, they could cheer me up. Maybe this is a grandparent, maybe this is a parent, maybe this is a sibling. And really, not just saying who it was, but talking about the conditions of that. What was that person or that place able to do that put your mind at ease and made you feel comfortable in the world, provided you safety and security, whatever it might be. And the more detailed you can get to start with about what your experience with peace is, the more you'll be able to revert back to that as we go through this class, because this is not about me brainwashing you to think like I do about this stuff. It's about me bringing out these memories and these experiences in ways that are meaningful to you. So the first 2 weeks of class, we focus on peace, conflict, and the self. And in this time, you are asked to concentrate on your own experiences with peace and conflict. Your first task in this narrative, I ask you to describe and define your notions and conceptions of peace. Think of a person or people you always felt safe with or could turn to. Describe those feelings peace felt like, and then fill in the blank, etc. The second task is to describe your experience with conflict. Only in this case, I want you to describe your levels of comfort and skill. Do you engage conflict or avoid it? Do you feel like you are well qualified for dealing with disputes and problems, and that they can end the way you'd like them to? Or do you see more missed opportunities than positive outcomes? The assignment serves 2 purposes. First, the class needs to be grounded in your truth and your experience, and that is well served by this assignment. And second, your final paper asks for reflection on how views have changed or been made stronger, and how that compares with views that stay the same. It should not be hard to write at length, but students are asked to try to distill their papers, this first assignment, to just a page or 2. Thoughtful and reflective, but it doesn't have to be longer than a couple of pages. And I'm not grading your experiences, I'm just trying to get you a good starting point. And again, we're starting with you and we're ending with you. But in this class, we're going to cover material, and hopefully a good amount of it is new to you. And when you interact with that new material, that helps you to think about conflict and peace in your life and that you see in the world, the punchline that I want to have is that at the end of the term, you are able to say, these are 3 things that I learned in this class that help me to think about the conflicts that I see and experience in my life, and better and more helpful ways. So you start at a point and then you say, this is what I learned, this is how I've grown, this is where I've come from here. So this week, watch the introductions, learn about me, find out a little bit more about the topic, and focus on you. Write up 1 or 2 pages that talk about your experience with peace, that provide a place or location where you experienced peace, and you define and describe what that peace was like for you, what was going on, how that worked out. And then the second one is your experience with conflict and your comfort with conflict. What skills do you think you have? What skills do you think you would like to get? But again, this class is all about you. And, I look forward to this. We all have conflicts in our lives. I certainly have conflict in my life. And what I've experienced is that students, whether or not they want to get the certificate in conflict and peace studies from Tri-C, will benefit in their careers no matter what they choose by having a better grasp of what the things that they're able to do and the methods that they can engage with conflict so that they can improve their likelihood of achieving the outcomes that they desire. So this class is for you. It's driven by what I've identified to be some really effective practices, and I look forward to the time we're going to spend together. But my apologies. I'd rather not waste your time being on Zoom the first day while some people are struggling to get in. I'd really like this time to be, the starting point, to just be some reflection on you, and then we'll get going with the textbook and these questions. Again, looking forward to the term.